surprised if it didn't tape, I tell you.
Oh, no. They so need to rerun. Here's what I guarantee. I guarantee that episode's going to get like 1 or 2 reruns. And there's an inside joke in that episode because the whole thing was about they didn't read the terms of service. And anybody who's ever watched South Park knows at the beginning of the show, there's this disclaimer: all celebrities are impersonated poorly. This content is not meant for anyone. So it's like if Apple sues them, which they will, or they'll think about it, they can just go, hey, nanny boo boo, you didn't read her TOA, why won't Apple read?
dear. So, well, actually, because I just put South Park UK into Google, and it looks like it might be possible to stream it off the official website.
Yeah,
I might see if I can do that later on.
Comedy Central streams all the episodes. I guarantee if Apple overreacts here and sues them, Trent and Trey will say, screw you, we're gonna play it. They'll act like Eric Cartman, and they'll just go, son. And then, of course, if Apple wants it off the air, they'll sue Viacom. And Viacom will not react that way. Viacom will go, we understand we've angered you, Jobs. We are of the geniuses. We have done the quickening. And before because I actually just started the recording right when we started talking, I need to stop talking about it because I'm going to get sued by Viacom. I'm using expressly forbidden copyrighted material. I'm not allowed to be a fan. We don't. I think it's appropriate given our recent technical snafus. We don't have Bit this week. We're hoping he's back next week, but given what he's dealing with, not sure he is. I didn't ask him if I can actually tell everybody why he's not here, so I'm not going to do that. I'll let him explain. He has a perfectly valid, legitimate, and much more important reason. It's something to be dealing with.
Yeah.
His priorities are dead straight on that. So you just have me and the big glowing alien face here. Is it the white balance on your camera? I mean, I crap, but you always look like this just glowing.
Well, I've got a 30-inch display, so that could be what it. I think that's the culprit, to be honest.
Okay. Well, one of these days we need to like screw with your Skype white balance and see if we can like turn it down or something. I know you can't do that while you're on the call, but
yeah, I know. So I've tried by turning it off and like having a background light, but it just either way it just doesn't seem to pan out one way or the other because the display seems to constantly want to kick in anyway. So it just seems a bit tricky at the moment.
This is one reason I really hate this software. A good recording software designed for this would let me manually adjust that on this side. You know, like normalize your white level with my white level, and so we'd look right, as opposed to what you see is what you. Cause honestly, it shouldn't be y'all's job to fix this. It should be mine because I can see what I'm getting. I should be able to tweak with it, but.
Well, I mean, from what you said, you have a lot of stuff to do with the thing when it's finished recording as it is.
Yeah, like I have to do tweaks to the audio. I have to turn parts of it up, parts of it down. Literally, this is the post-production process here. I have to sit here and watch this all again and go, oh, that's screwed up there. Oh, turn that audio up there. It's like I have to manually normalize the audio. Everybody's like, oh, well, you should just record everything separately and then put it back together. Hell no, I do enough post-production as it is. And the other thing we get is, well, then you should just buy a software that's designed to do this. If you know of one, feel free to forward it to me because I've been looking for it. The reality is there's free, and then there's moderately priced, which is what we're dealing with, and then there's, okay, I have a television studio budget hardware solutions and or software solutions, but they're not really designed to do this. So I still have to do another $5,000 to $10,000 worth of jerry rigging on top of them. So We'll figure it out. My ideal solution would be to just write software designed for this, but I'm not a software developer, and I don't have any volunteer software people, and I don't have 180 grand to give them.
And as you say, that was a problem.
All right, getting back to the topics at hand. Before we get into that, since you're in the UK, I honestly have to ask this. Two questions. For those of you who signed in for Apple, I'm sorry, but it's the network's been off for a while. We're gonna have fun, damn it.
No, I don't mind.
I was watching the news today. Of course, everybody's finally talking about taxes and budgets and so on and stuff here. I hear a rumor that y'all across the pond are giving 42 to 50 cents on the dollar on average in taxes. Is that true, high, over-exaggerated?
To be honest, I'm not so sure what the specifics are because there's so many different things, and as far as the rates go compared from the currency standpoint, I don't.
Well, no, okay.
Usually, if I'm buying something in dollars, the pounds usually come out lower, so that's the only thing I don't usually go with the specifics usually.
Well, okay, ignoring the conversion rates of currency and everything, say you earn £20,000 a year, high, low, whatever. Say you earn £20,000 a year. How much of that do you get to keep, and how much of that goes to various taxes, be it sales, markup tariffs, income, whatever?
Well, I couldn't say on that one, but I do know, say, for example, that if you earn around about 3,000 a month, I think that's about 1,000 of that goes in taxes, I think. That's the figure I've heard in that sense.
So, whoa.
I know.
Yeah, that's basically double our tax rate. Because you'd be in the lower. I don't know if yours is linear or scaled. Ours is scaled. The more you make, the more you pay. And then we say you made more, so the fact that you're paying more isn't enough. I just find this. I find this interesting because there's this big cry from a lot of people over here to think that we need our government taking care of everything. And last year, something that happened the year before actually became official. More than half of the people over here got more money out of Uncle Sam than they paid to Uncle Sam. That's our magical budget here. Well, we take from the rich and give to the middle class.
Around here, the opposite.
Yeah, but I mean, that's unsustainable. You can't give more money than you take in, and the fact that that's gotten to that point means next year it'll be worse. And honestly, that means at some point in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm going to wind up with a tax bill like yours. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, okay, the average American household is spending 75% of their pay on stuff. Between their food, rent, lodging, most of us aren't saving. We should be, but we're not. And I'm like, so basically every American's going to be filing for bankruptcy when the IRS eventually decides to raise the tax bill to what it's going to need to be to pay for all these entitlement programs. Way to go, budget. It's like
Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean, like I say, I do know that, like I say, as far as the percentage goes, I didn't know, but that figure, 3,000 or so, that's like what the take-home thing is.
No,
the actual figure's probably 4,000, but the 1,000 comes off the top of that.
That's like the 33% tax bracket, and I'm guessing £3,000. Like if I do the math here, that's roughly 4 or 5 grand. So you're doing good, but you're not like rich. You would be the equivalent over here to somebody earning 50 to 75K a year. You're below the evil $100,000 mark. You're just in all fairness, really, that's an average American household, to be honest. And I just it's kind of scary when you think about it, because I just don't see how that could be balanced. I mean, at our highest tax bracket, like our evil, evil rich assholes, the people we hate, they're responsible for all our problems, is 35% plus some supplemental taxes and other things. So it's like basically your middle class is being taxed like our uber rich.
Well, I mean, there's even talk now where some people have said that they possibly would like the government to introduce a mansion tax for people that, you know, are really well off, because the fact that they don't seem to pay their way. At least that's what people think anyway. In some respects.
Yeah, it's nice to see some things are universal. Let's see, what are the universal things? It's all the rich people's fault. I'm entitled to it. I didn't work for it, but I'm entitled to it. You have it, I want it. Those are pretty much the three universals right there.
You know, like you say, it seems to be, that seems to be common right across the board.
We've all gone mad. All of us.
Or if not, we're about to.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, since we've gone completely off topic, we might as well finish it up. I hear mixed feelings. Does anyone in the UK care about the royal wedding? I mean, somebody got on our TV this morning and said, well, the UK is going to be spending lots of money on two things. One, the royal wedding, and one, the Olympics. One is justified and one is evil, and apparently the Olympics are evil. I'm like, what?
I tell you what, people have absolutely gone crazy over here. I tell you what, I'm just glad that I've got a load of podcasts, because I tell you what, there's going to be nothing on the internet but about that all tomorrow, and I don't want to, nothing about it.
Oh, no. You want to hear something really sick? Same bullshit here. Our like local television stations are covering it, I think starting at like 1 or 3 a.m. Like, we're Americans! We succeeded! We left!
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Well, but see, the good thing over here is I have all these lovely cable stations that are entirely ignoring it. So I'll just watch them.
I think the problem is that from our side of the situation, we're going to have it on our terrestrial TV and our satellite TV and cable, I would assume. So it's going to be the only way to get away from it is to have stock of stuff like I've got.
You got a little area there, just so you know. If I can fix that, I will, people. If not, I don't know. Alright, you're getting into the Appletopia. And I'm sure we'll cover this more whenever Bit gets back, because I'm sure there'll be more developments in this. We're not going to go into all of this. Like, this right here is actually something Bit knows a lot more about, and we don't know yet on iOS 5. There is a rumor going around on the iPhone and iOS stuff right now. This actually isn't even on the document. Might as well bring it up, though. That Apple is not launching an iPhone 5 this year, but they are launching basically the equivalent of an iPhone 4S. Basically a slicker, faster, streamier iPhone 4, not an iPhone 5. Opinions on that?
No, I mean, the Verizon iPhone points to that being a possibility because of its timing when it came out, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of people seem to be going down the thought process that it'd be crazy for Apple to release an iPhone in June when they done the Verizon iPhone just 5 months earlier. But the thing is, as we know, Apple is crazy at something, so I wouldn't put it past them personally to release an iPhone in June.
Yeah, either way, honestly, either way is in tune with the company. Personally, either strategy is insane at this point. Rumored strategy 1. We just launched our phone a few months ago on a competitive carrier, and now we're going to make it obsolete. That's strategy 1. That's mad, because you just pissed off anybody who invested in your company, and now they're afraid to. Okay, that's insanity. That's perfectly Apple, you know. Strategy 2. Everybody else is upgrading, sending out stuff that's like twice or 3 times the product we have, but we're not really going to upgrade. We're going to do at best a nano incremental upgrade and just let things coast for another year while we wind up 1/4, 1/5, 1/10 as powerful as everybody else. That's strategy 2. Completely mad, completely bonkers, completely daft, very Apple. So the reality is, choose your insanity. You know, which dope was Steve Jobs smoking today?
Well, I mean, there has been a thing called of him doing a presentation, like practicing for it, but it didn't give much away. But it looks as though, you know, but it did seem to hint that the iPhone could be a possibility. But you know, as I say, it's anybody's guess.
Oh, I'm sure at a minimum they're releasing an incremental update. You know, honestly, what it comes down to is what hardware are they going for in their next revision? Because something they could do, an iPhone 4S, you know, whatever the hell they call it, that's what it would be. You know, there was the 3G, then there was the 3GS. This would be an iPhone 4 version 2. If they did, that would make perfect sense, because as near as we can tell, the A5 processor that's in the iPad 2 is basically taking advantage of Moore's Law, and it's two A4s stuck together, basically. So that's an incremental improvement. It would let the iPhone be just a little bit more powerful. It would let the iPhone hardware be in line with the iOS hardware and sync them up. So, because there's been this big despair, you know, it's like the iPhone comes out and the iPad's a piece of shit. The iPad comes out and the iPhone's a piece of shit. The iPhone comes out and the iPad's a piece of shit. You must buy both every year. It's like, and I'm sure that's what Apple was doing for her, but there's a lot more competition in the marketplace now. So asking people to choose between could actually cost you sales. So there's an argument to be made for team up. And that would be an incremental change, and everything Apple needs to crank that out and distribute it in mass, with the exception of supply shortages, which I'm not sure I really believe actually exist. I think some of that's marketing stuff. And I think this, and that would actually explain the supply shortages, because if they're dumping all their chips into iPhone 4S's that they're fixing to ship, then that would then it's like that would explain why they're having trouble making iPad 2s right now. You know, it's like, oh, well, all our parts are going over there. It's like, so that would make sense, and that's something Apple, like you said, they could do their announcement 2 weeks later, crank that product out. The new spec things to other people and so on. You'd be looking at an October launch at earliest. And that's not the Apple way, with the exception of the iPad. Doesn't make sense to do. And maybe they're just waiting another cycle to really even do any serious competition. Honestly, both make sense.
You know, well, from where I'm standing on it, I mean, I was, in a sense, on the one hand, being interested before this came out, looking to see what they released this summer, but then also being glad at the possibility that by the time I was able to look at getting a new phone, that the iPhone would have already been out for 6 months, so there wouldn't be the mad rush for it. So, like I say, if they do stick to their old plan of doing a major update, then I'd be happy with that. But then again, having it more newer in December would also be a benefit.
Well, no, and love or hate Apple, you have to admit that Apple's strategy for how they launch devices has always been very smart, at least as far as responsibility to their shareholders go. Because, like, take the iPad and the iPhone, for example. You release them in basically second quarter. You know, you stand up, you say, here's our new thing. So you have a mid-year, all the crazy people. It's shiny! Steve Jobs shit it out! It's shiny! I have to go get it! They go buy 2! Or 3! Or they make Apple's mid-year slump. And then the normal people who buy all the marketing and think this is the device for them, whether it is or isn't, go buy it at Christmas. when it's fixing to become obsolete in the beginning of next year. So the reality is that releasing them on that cycle makes Apple almost twice as much money, which is brilliant. That's the other reason I'm thinking that 4S has more cadence over an iPhone 5. No guarantee that I'm right, but it makes more sense from the history of Apple's standpoint, because if they launch in October, they don't get that. You know, they get the Christmas rush. That's what they get. They get what everybody else gets. They don't get their it's an Apple rush and then the holiday rush. And Apple really likes having two big mass mobs.
Yeah, well, that's what I know that's what a lot of people were saying was the unfortunate thing with the iPad 2 was that came out right after the holiday, so they missed out on that.
Well, I personally think that one was a mistake. Even though they're selling it, it's not, because then again, it's an incremental upgrade. So aside from the feeling shystered, honestly, it's an incremental upgrade. The real difference between the iPad 2 and the iPad 1 isn't power. You know, it still can't handle HTML5 applications. It still can handle that stuff. It's a better gaming pad. You know, nobody can deny it has adequate graphics. If you bought the iPad to basically be a game device, the iPad 2 makes the iPad look like the piece of shit it is. In terms of the better graphics.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one thing that I already have noticed from the iPad 1's point of view is that, unfortunately from my standpoint, I had to happen across one app that had a lot of memory-intensive stuff, and the lack of memory in the iPad 1 is really a drawback for that.
Yeah, but they still haven't put enough in the iPad 2.
Well, it's more, so...
Yeah, it's more, but for the stuff you really want that extra memory for, it's still not enough. And that's honestly one of those things I don't understand. Obviously, it's how they're making it that whole nanometer thinner, but I don't understand why the iPad 2 didn't have a gig of memory. And honestly, rather the iPhone, the next iPhone is a version 4.2 or a version 5, it needs to have a gig of memory, you know, of RAM. That's just necessary to really take advantage of the modern web. If I had to honestly guess why iOS is having trouble rendering some of this stuff, my guess would be it's the memory. It should have at least a gig.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, like I say, yeah, they put more memory in the iPad too, which is good, but the thing is, like you say, having the gig would have been what everyone would have wanted and really what they do need to do.
Well, no, and honestly, it's one of those things, that's something the end consumer, the average end user who knows nothing about technology, feels the sluggishness when it comes to a lack of RAM and a lack of speed of flash memory. Those are the two things. Grandma, who knows nothing about technology, she'll pick up device A with twice as much memory and go, whoa, this is smoother. This site doesn't lag. It's like, she will notice that. It's a night and day difference. It really is.
Yeah, well, like I say, from this, like I say, on this one app that I downloaded, I already noticed the problem with the lesser amount. So, like you say, obviously, when the apps have got more memory to play with, they do run a lot more smoothly. And like you say, if you experience them when they're slow, then you really will notice the difference, no doubt about that.
Yeah. Okay.